Good afternoon. I'm joined today by Tony CATACHANAS, who is the CEO of Tower Peak Partners. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Really great to have you on. I wonder if you could please just give us a quick introduction to Tower Peak Partners.
Sure. Tower Peak Partners is a private asset firm headquartered in London with offices in New York and Rio today, with plans to expand internationally. We're a firm that was founded and launched officially in June of 2024. We have been on an expansion and growth path that is fairly unprecedented in that we've grown to nearly 40 people, in terms of human effectives. We've expanded our international reach very rapidly, and I'm very, very pleased to say that we're now approaching the closing of our first fund within the space of around 14 to 15 months, which we're very proud of. And so that is really what we do. We're focused on asset classes like private equity. We invest in infrastructure. We're involved in natural capital investing. And we also have a practice that's focused on rights and intellectual property investing as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's really helpful. Now, I know that the industrial transition is a theme that you look at across a lot of your strategies and geographies. I wonder if you could give us some insight into why you've selected that as your kind of target investment theme, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we think about global supply chains. Trade flows these days are quite a prominent topic and attract a lot of headlines around the world. And I think the way we like typically investing is by looking at markets that are subject to deep, profound dislocation, structural change. And so we like investing thematically. We like investing in topics that are at the front of people's minds. And so they are very, very strategic topics. And so the industrial transition, as we tend to call it, will cover the energy transition, of course, a topic that many people know. The advent of climate change has caused and attracted people to try to resolve a new set of risks, especially in global industrial value chains specifically. But we think it goes far beyond energy, and it goes into transportation, chemical sectors, materials, and a range of other industrial activities, typically very heavy, that contribute to emissions around the world, that also need to decarbonize and transition to. That's a topic that the team is unusually well positioned to tackle. What we've done is we've put together a team that specializes in industrial joint ventures. We're very proud of our history for the last 15 to 20 years on average, have been engaged heavily with the global industrial complex. So these are large multinational industrial companies who increasingly have been dealing with the topics of climate change, for example, and have been doing so by deploying their balance sheet and capital into middle market companies, looking for innovation with a view to eventually buy them out and compete. And so that trend is one that we like. We see a lot of disruption, a lot of innovation, a lot of structural change in that market. And that's the sort of philosophy that we have at Tower Peak. And to tackle that, we've built a team that is composed predominantly of participants who come from industrial sectors. We have attracted fairly senior executives from the likes of Siemens, the likes of Vale, BP, within our ranks, who can give us insight and have a very different perspective, a industry-specific knowledge that's quite deep, and have the ability really to discern risks and opportunities.
Okay. So, Tony, in your introduction, you mentioned intellectual property and rights. I wonder if you might be able to expand a little bit for us on what you see as the market opportunity there.
Sure. I mean, look, that's a very interesting sector that has been, attracting a lot of attention lately. Again, in the same vein of the fact that we enjoy going into sectors and industries that are subject to profound structural change, that the media and entertainment segments, the sports industry, have been subject to that profound structural change as well. And in particular, with the advent of new technology, of course, the internet has helped promote, distribution, help enhance commercialization. So we've seen the demand dynamics, the supply dynamics as well on the production side being affected by new technology. That's leading to very interesting new commercial opportunities and investment opportunities for firms like ours. So for example, we all turn on our TV, turn on Netflix and consume now products that are from other parts of the world. And so the consumption patterns have changed profoundly, where they used to be heavily controlled, usually very regionalized. The contractual nature of and commercialization nature of those particular industries has completely changed. And then likewise on the production side, technology has helped bring the overall cost of production down. And likewise, in the same vein, there's been an internationalization of production capability, which has also conversely helped governments get involved to try to attract talent, attract production into their own economies, and help with employment creation and the likes. And so there's been a lot of competition within governments, between governments, between different economies around trying to attract these sorts of industries. And so areas such as the audiovisual industry, this is television, the film industry, we're looking as well at music, we're looking at gaming, we're looking at sports, of course, and so publishing. These industries are for us, core and center, and so, really subject to this profound structural change. In change, there is opportunity, they say. So this is really where we gear up resources to tackle these scenarios. We've brought on board a team with a very deep track record of more than 25 years in this realm of intellectual property and rights acquisition. We're very proud to have such a prominent team that is as well recognized in that particular industry. And we've attracted, as a result, the guys of a lot of government agencies, a lot of groups that have seen the quality of the members of the team that are involved in that sector.
Great. Sounds like a really exciting opportunity. Now, I wonder if we might move to another sector. It's quite hard to ignore geopolitics at the moment, and I think in the wake of everything that's going on around the world, defence is a sector that private capital and other parts of the market are looking at investing in. What's your view on the role that private capital can play in that investment in the defence sector that clearly is desired and probably needed at the moment?
It's interesting. I was at a roundtable organized by the Anglo-American Chamber of Commerce just last week, as a matter of fact, with a few large multinational players that are involved in the defense, security, and intelligence industry. And there were only two financial players at the table. I happened to be one. As a result of the fact that we're heavily involved as well in a range of different industrial activities of a commercial and civilian nature. But we tend to forget that these industries typically overlap very heavily with civilian application. So the majority of participants of so-called primes in that world tend to operate across both civilian life as well as defense and security. And so we're pretty well placed to comment, to understand these value chains well and the likes. We see a lot of opportunity in this sector. I think it's heavily misunderstood. And interestingly, I think the way that we participate in other industrial value chains by way of industrial joint venturing, i.e. working on strategic targeted investments in specific technologies, businesses that have real commercial applications with large multinational industrial groups, will help attract more private capital into the sector. And so I think we play a role in that by doing so in that way. And then helping, very importantly, promote the middle markets, which is going to be increasingly important. There are, of course, a number of issues, a number of headwinds. Some of those headwinds feel and sound like, of course, national interest, being front and center at the minds of, the ministries and departments of defense. Of course, there is a sense of wanting to promote national champions as well, for, again, security reasons and very legitimate reasons. But in a commercial endeavor and in order to attract private capital, I think we're going to need to think about that in a slightly different way. And so I think it'll be important to try to re-explore alliances in that context. And so organizations like NATO become very important, and the alliance, that North Atlantic, Treaty Organization and alliance will need to be re-explored and probably play a role as well in helping facilitate those trade and capital flows as well.
Okay, great, really interesting. Now, final question for you. As you mentioned in your introduction, launched relatively recently, June 2024, July 2024, around then. I wonder if you could speak to us a little bit about LP appetite, LP sentiment at the moment in the market, looking through the lens of obviously Tower Peak and the fact that you're a relative sort of newcomer to the market. What are LPs interested in, concerned about at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we are newcomers to the market, but we're an old pair of hands. So we've done this before. We've built businesses in very large multinational organizations in the investment industry, as well as large industrial companies. And we've been really in charge of resources on a global plane. So understand this industry from the perspective that capital flows are cross-border in nature. Investment is a discipline that is cross-border in nature. Increasingly, trade flows are inevitably cross-border in nature. And so, it requires inevitably a set of resources that, has a footprint that is multinational. But also we found that, many firms tend to focus a lot of time on the watchmaking process. If I can make an allusion towards the process of watchmaking, like a luxury watch, like a Rolex. Rolexes are beautiful watches, are intricate, products. They're very complicated to build. And we spend a lot of time in the investment industry thinking about the watchmaking process and sometimes, omit or forget about the commercialization of the watch. And it's very easy to get lost in, the product development side, coming up with a good investment thesis and strategy, and omit whether or not there is a market for it. And so, and also increasingly, we find that, the capital raising process these days has become about finding the marginal dollar in, lands and jurisdictions further afield. So capital raising these days has become a global effort. We're going further and further afield. And very often we find that there tends to be commentary in headlines around the capital raising environment. And very often we find that describes an immediate geographical reality as opposed to a global reality. The capital raising environment is difficult. It's hard to raise money and so on. I can't remember being in this industry in 25 years, having an easy capital markets and capital raising environment. So I think it's about the way we deploy resources, organize our resources to really speak to investors in different parts of the world and understand their motivations, of course, but focus on the markets, the commercialization of our products, of our thesis, and find theses that are more relevant to that investor base. And then one last point I'd like to make, which I think is very, very important if I can. We're finding that, that a jurisdiction further afield and that so-called marginal dollar for most GPs is really eager, to interact with opportunities and wants to speak, to GPs in different parts of the world, and increasingly, particularly in the global South. We're finding a set of economies that are advancing, evolving, and looking for opportunity, including in our northwestern economies. And so we're seeing a lot more Brazilian capital, a lot more Southeast Asian capital, Latin American capital generally, Middle Eastern capital flowing into Europe, North America. And I think we should welcome that. These economies have evolved, are coming of age, have companies and industries of their own that are also expanding and coming into the global economy. And we should participate in facilitating that process. So we want to be there as a firm and facilitate that process.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.